Okay, quick poll. Do any of these travel questions resonate with you? Are you the friend who always plans everyone's vacation? Do you love a good color-coded itinerary or spreadsheet? Do you book restaurant reservations months in advance of your trip? And do you always seem to know about that beautiful boutique hotel that nobody else has heard of? If that sounds like you, and honestly kind of sounds like me, then Fora was built for you. Fora is a modern travel agency for people who love to plan travel and help others travel well. Yes, that's right, you too could be a travel advisor because they offer a platform, training, and a global community to give you everything you need to turn that obsession with travel into a real flexible stream of income. Become a Fora advisor today at foratravel.com/unpacked. That's FORA travel.com/unpacked. And make sure you tell them we sent you. foratravel.com/unpacked. I'm Aislyn Green, and this is Unpacked by Afar. If you listened to last week's episode, you heard what it was like to tow a 20-foot Airstream down the Oregon coast with an all-electric Rivian truck. My wife and I took the trip last summer, and I shared our challenges, like learning to back into a campsite, and our joys, like all the friends we met along the way. What I didn't get into that much was the tech, because last week we wanted to lean into the story, and this week we want to offer up a guide, how an EV road trip actually works if you're towing, and what to know if you're thinking about taking a trip like this yourself. Let's start with the basics when we're looking at an actual EV road trip. Before we took this trip, I didn't know a ton about EV charging networks. I knew that they were growing and that some worked better than others. And mostly I knew that if you wanted to go off the beaten path, you were often out of luck. But Rivian saw that need in the market, and back in 2022, they launched the Adventure Network.
The Rivian Adventure Network is our ever-growing fast-charging network, open to, of course, Rivians, but now all EVs.
This is Sarah Esslinger, who heads up the Adventure Network.
We have sites, opening each week, but where we sit today is that we have 840 chargers across 130 unique locations, and we're live in 39 states. And those are at locations, along travel corridors, but also, I'm sure we'll get into it, in places that take you and allow you to go a little bit off of the beaten path.
Listeners, please note that this interview was recorded several months ago, and since then, Rivian has expanded to more than 970 chargers across 145 sites, and it's growing. 2 notable new additions are in Mammoth Lakes, California, and in Park City, Utah. And what makes this network different and what really mattered for our trip is where they're building these stations, because it's not just along the big interstates. Sarah told me that the whole ethos came from a specific piece of customer feedback after the first sites launched.
So we launched the network in the summer of 2022, and the industry was different. EVs have evolved so much since then. But when we first launched the network, we launched a handful of sites, one being in Salida, Colorado, the others being along 395 to explore the eastern Sierra Nevada. And what we really heard from customers was there's some charging infrastructure. I can kind of get to these places, but once I arrive, I don't feel like I'm able to explore in the areas that I want to. And so that was something that we really put a lot of effort in thinking about when we thought about the ethos of the Rivian Adventure Network and how we wanted to expand it.
The company has invested heavily in charging infrastructure in places like Shoshone, California, which is on the edge of Death Valley, and along the Blue Ridge Parkway, which never had decent fast charging before. Also, Gardner, Montana, just outside Yellowstone, Joshua Tree, the Eastern Sierras, and the Oregon coast, which is where I came in. And so I was really shocked that we were actually able to charge all along the coastal highway there. I thought we would, have an easier time going if we went up inland, but actually we were able to have a lovely charging experience all along the coast.
Right? Like, thinking about the route that you took, not only do we have charging along I-5 or kind of like 101 in the more populated areas, but as soon as you get over to the Oregon coast, we made sure that there were sites because we know people want to explore those areas. You might want to kind of have a base camp out of one of those areas for a while. And so not only are you maybe driving through these areas, but you're there for a few days and you want to have kind of a central spot to be able to charge.
We also lucked out because at that time, Rivian had just released its built-in trip planner. So you punch in a destination, it calculates your charge needs, including the weight of whatever you're towing, and it tells you where to stop, how long to charge for, and how much juice you'll have left at the other end. And it updates as you drive, so factoring in elevation, heat, and all of the other things that impact battery life. I asked Sarah about the trip planner specifically because it did make the trip so much easier.
Yeah, the customer feedback to that feature has been so tremendous, and I think when you peel back why that is it's taking the mental load and
Yeah.
the anxiety and the stress off of what you're really trying to do, which is have a really fun adventure.
It'll likely come as no surprise that Rivian partnered with Google for this.
Google Maps, which everyone, uses, knows, and loves, is really a lot of the kind of point of interest, the richness of the data, the hours of operation, the amenities, the routing, the turn by turn,
Yeah.
all of that is their expertise, and that's amazing. And so we're leveraging that and then building our expertise on top of it, which is the charging recommendations, the optimizing which charger to go to for, the conditions that you have.
And our trip really put it to the test.
I mean, you took arguably one of the more complicated EV road trips, right?
Yeah.
Like you were new to the car, you were
Yeah.
towing, you were probably on a route that you don't drive every single day. And so that trifecta, and you were still able to have a seamless and a good experience, I think really speaks to that feature.
Even if you don't have an EV, you've probably seen a charging station. So think about this. If you're towing something, how exactly do you charge? Because most stations are designed for cars where you pull in and you park in a spot that is the size of a parking spot, and then you charge. If you're towing something 20 feet long, none of that works. You would have to unhitch your trailer and park it somewhere else, which we did once and then never again. But as we discovered, 70% of Rivian Adventure Network sites are trailer friendly. Sarah said that was very intentional and that it took a lot of work.
That's harder for us. It's more space, it's more planning,
Yeah.
it's more,
Yeah.
because you need all of that. And when we think about the end-to-end experience, I really do mean end to end. Not only are we thinking about the charger space itself if you're towing, but we have to be able to get there from the street. So we're thinking about the turning
Yes.
radiuses throughout the parking lot. We're not putting you into a really tight spot where, you can see the charger, but you can't figure out how to get there.
Yeah. When building out the sites, they even tested with an Airstream like the one that we were towing. And they factored in one other key detail, which you'll appreciate even more if you've listened to the main episode.
We try to do pull-throughs, like you mentioned, wherever possible.
Yeah.
There's only a small handful of sites on our network that are trailer friendly that do require you to back up, but all of our trailer friendly chargers allow you to just kind of pull through and keep on going to the
Mm.
egress of however, you need to get out of the parking lot.
We're going to take a quick break, but when we're back, we'll get into the practical tips for towing with an EV no matter your vehicle.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
If you think you know cruising, think again. Uncruise Adventures is the opposite of the big ship experience. Our small, award-winning vessels carry just 22 to 86 guests. Enjoy all-inclusive farm-to-table dining, guided excursions, and all the gear you need. No dress code and no crowds. Come as you are and explore Alaska, Hawaii, Mexico, Costa Rica, or the Galapagos. Visit us at uncruise.com to learn more.
Okay, so if this whole thing has planted a seed for you, maybe an EV road trip, maybe towing a small trailer, here's what I wish I'd known. Number one, if you're towing, plan for range to drop by about 40%. Our Rivian, which was a tri-motor R1T at full charge, had a range of about 360 miles. Once we hitched the 5,000-pound Airstream to it, that dropped to about 200 miles. It's not a deal breaker. It just means you're stopping more often or going more slowly. So if you're planning a long day, factor in one or two more charging stops and you'd plan for a non-towing trip. Or you can lean into slow travel, break up the trip a little bit more. Number two, make sure you understand the idle fee. Most EV charging stations charge a fee if you leave your car for a certain amount of time after you're done charging. For Tesla, it's anywhere from 50 cents to $1 a minute after a 5-minute grace period. For Electrify America, it's 40 cents a minute after a 10-minute grace period. And for Rivian, it's 50 cents a minute after a 10-minute grace period. Number 3, make sure you have all the right adapters. Because most RV campsites have 30 amp or 50 amp hookups, you can technically charge your EV overnight at your campsite just by plugging in. But you need the right adapter. For us, it was the NEMA 14-50R adapter that we could use at a site with 50 amp service. Just remember that it's a slow charge. Plus, you need to confirm with your campsite that they allow EV charging. Some don't, even if they have 50 amp service. Number 4, get trailer mirrors if you're towing anything. This is not an EV specific thing, but obviously most trucks come with mirrors designed for driving the truck. But if you're pulling something that's either wider or longer than the truck, you need extenders. They are these mirrors that you can clip on. You can find them usually for about $100 or less, and they really change your ability to see what's happening behind you. We didn't have them on our trip, but one of the people that we met along the way recommended them, and I sure wish we had been able to find a pair. Number 5, and if you have an EV, you already know this, but plan for the charging stop to be longer than a gas stop, but shorter than you might imagine. So while we were towing, I wasn't exactly sure of what to expect in terms of our charging time. We had budgeted maybe an hour plus for most of our stops, but usually it only took about 20 to 40 minutes depending on the station and our battery status. So it was just long enough to grab lunch, stretch our legs, grocery shop, etc. And that gave us a chance to actually take a driving break, which is something I'm not great at doing on traditional road trips, so I really appreciated it. There are so many more lessons that we learned along the way, but I don't want to spoil all the fun. My main takeaway is that I was surprised and delighted by how easy it was to tow with an EV. And I was surprised that the infrastructure for EV road trips, at least along the corridor that we drove on the West Coast, is so much farther along than I thought. I started the trip a bit skeptical, and I ended it by trying to figure out how I could buy an Airstream. Didn't see that coming. All right, this is Aislyn Green signing off from Unpacked by Afar. If you have not listened to the main episode, the story of how this trip actually went, that link is in the show notes. Happy adventuring. If you're ready for more travel inspiration and intel like this, visit afar.com and be sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok. We are at Afar Media. If you enjoyed today's exploration, I hope you'll come back for more great stories and interviews. Subscribing always makes that easy, and be sure to rate and review the show on your favorite podcast platform. It helps other travelers find it. This has been Unpacked, a production of Afar Media. The podcast is produced by Aislyn Green and Nikki Galteland. Production support from Computer City Productions. This podcast is part of the Airwave Media Podcast Network. Visit airwavemedia.com to listen and subscribe to their other fine shows like Culture Kids and the Explorers Podcast.